Hi, folks. This is Rick Doc Walker, the DOC.
This is John Kime, and you're listening to the Mess Hall with Rally Captain and Tailgate Ted.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Mess Hall. It's your boy Tailgate Ted, joined as always by my man Rally Captain.
What's up, everybody? It's always a pleasure to grace you guys on these airwaves. Let's get it.
Tell you, Rally, it's been a fun time, man. I've been out at training camp past couple of days. Those that haven't heard, the team basically did away with the lottery. Fans were walking up today, and they were actually just getting in. You had to, fill out a waiver electronically, but they were just getting in. So it's been a good time. And a couple of those fans actually came over and said hello. So we've been listening to you and Rally on the podcast. A couple of them were staring at me. And I didn't know if I had like a cliffhanger or something going on for a split second there. But I realized that, they recognized from the podcast and they actually watched on YouTube. So if you're out there at camp, if you're at practice, if you're at the game this weekend, stop by and say what's up. Love to talk to you, love to get your feedback live. Even if it's bad, I'm not going to swing on you. It will be all right. Just come on through.
Man, I get that so much that people will say, hey, I saw you at the game, but I was afraid to approach you, or I just didn't know what to say. And I'm like, I'm no different than you. I'm a fan. So we can vibe on any level. If you want to say hi, come on and say hi. I don't bite.
No, I'm right there with you, man. And seriously, just come on, say hello, say what's up. Because if there's one thing Rally and I both love, it's talking football and it's talking Commanders football. So with that being said, we want to jump right into it. It is, for timestamp people, Tuesday, August 9th. And I was out at camp today. The guys were in full pads. It was a glorious sight to see. But immediately after camp, I'm sitting there listening to Rivera's press conference on Twitter. And the breaking news, Coach Sam Mills, defensive line coach Sam Mills, was fired. Ron decided to let him go. And some people might recognize that last name. Well, Sam's father actually was just posthumously inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this weekend. So Sam's been with Rivera for quite some time. And, there's been some dust ups that's happened with that defensive line. And a couple of players have, said, without actually being quoted, that they had some issues with the way the defensive line was being run and with the system. I don't know about you, but I'm shocked that we're 33 days away from the regular season and we're letting go of coaches.
Ted, I got to tell you, man, shocked 50-50. And I say that because if you're not cutting the mustard, or if you are getting that negative feedback, we saw what happened last year. And because of what happened last year and where we're projected to be this year, you've got to get rid of that hangnail. And unfortunately, by all accounts, he was the hangnail. So I'm looking forward to see if that defense is going to step up. Because if they don't step up and you fire the man, then people are going to say, well, why did we fire him? So we got time on our hands, brother, and all we can do is go up from here. And I have a feeling that he will get another job.
Oh, I've got no doubt he'll get another job. You also feel for him because now you are 30 days away from the regular season. So for him to pick up another job, with another team that already has their coaching staff intact, it's like cutting a guy, a longtime vet in August, where he's not going to get a chance to get picked up. But I don't want to paraphrase Coach. Let's play this clip of Rivera actually talking about what happened during the press conference today.
Cool.
I relieved Sam Mills of his duties, and just a difference in philosophy for the most part. And we'll go from there. Very difficult, very difficult. I've known Sam a long time, and he's a very good football coach, and I really appreciate everything he's done. He helped us win a division our first year, and and just things got tough last year, but there's some things that, I felt I wanted to change.
So a difference in philosophy stood out to me there, because Mills has been with Rivera since he was a head coach in 2011. He was an assistant defensive line coach until December of 2018. Rivera elevated him to the main role after he let go of Brady Hoke. And then Mills came here after Rivera was hired in 2020. So to have a difference in philosophy while you've been with this head coach for a decade seems odd to me. And to do this in the middle of camp when you've got guys that are trying to get ready for your first preseason game seems odd to me. To do this in January when that defensive line has all that talent and regressed makes complete sense. But it makes you wonder, and maybe this is because we're Commanders fans or Washington fans. You're waiting for the true story to potentially come out down the road, that Mills was let go because of this or something happened because of this. And I don't want to speculate. Everything I'm hearing, he is a good guy. I don't want to try and tarnish his name. It just seems very, very weird that he was just let go today before practice and none of the players knew about it. Even his replacement had no idea that this was happening until he got in the building today.
Well, we've been in camp for what? 2 weeks, basically, right? And if I'm the head coach, and once again, we both are speculating, but if I'm the head coach and I'm not seeing what I think I should see, or I'm not getting the feedback from my players based upon the performance of the coach, one has got to change. My job isn't going to change, so I've got to do something about your job. So let's see where it goes. I am all for, once again, I hate to take food out of someone's mouth. By no means do I ever want anyone to get fired, but I have been fired before based upon my performance at many, many moons ago. So I know what it's like. And at the end of the day, the only person that I can look in the mirror is myself. And I had to say, damn, Steven, you know what? You did do that, or you didn't do that. And here we are. So you chalk it up, it's a learning experience, and move on.
And the good news is Jeff Scanina was Mills's assistant. He actually played one season with Mills' dad in the NFL. So Jeff is being promoted and is going to replace Sam Mills. And John Allen kind of had a scrum with a bunch of reporters afterwards. John Keim asked him an interesting question during that scrum. I'm going to play for you real quick.
Bad as a coach.
When you look at a guy who's played 17 years in the position in the NFL, there's so much that he's learned over those 17 years and however many years he's been coaching. So, I mean, there's so much that he can teach us, and, you know, we're just excited to get to work.
What are the things that you learned from him already?
I mean, it's kind of like what I learned from Morris is the mentality you have to play with. When you look at a guy who played 17 years in the NFL, they're not normal, and you can't be normal to do what we do.
Do you think there'll be much of a transition with Jeff?
I don't think so. He's been with us for the last 3 years, so he knows how we play. We know how he likes to coach, and, you know, we're just getting ready for Carolina.
So the good news is they're familiar with Scanina. They know what he likes to do. He's been here for a couple of years. And to me, I don't know about you, but for me personally, if I had a manager that never did my job before, I didn't respect him as much as someone that actually was in my shoes and knew what I went through on a day in, day out basis. And Scanina, playing in the league for 17 years with, I think, 7 different teams, to last in the league for 17 years is a feat in and of itself. But to be able to do that and then now transition to a coach, which is what Kerrigan's trying to do after being in the league 11 years, I mean, you feel that these guys are going to have the utmost respect for him and what he's trying to get them to do. So I'm not freaking out. I'm comfortable with the fact that Scanina's going to pick up the slack, if you will, and the only place to go is up from here. I'm just hoping that, you know, all the other guys kind of file in the same way that John is.
Well, let me tell you this. This reminds me kind of, if you will, when I was in the military. We had a sergeant who's been in the military, in the Army for 10 years. And then all of a sudden you get this butterball lieutenant who just graduated college, ROTC for those who don't know what that means. On average, you will listen to the lieutenant because he has higher rank than you, but you will always look to your left to what the sergeant says to have a better understanding of what's really going on. So you listen to the lieutenant, you look at the sergeant, and that's what this kind of reminds me of. You know, I don't doubt that the guy didn't know how to coach, but there's something about when you've got that moxie in the room, guys listen to you. Look at Sean McVay and his guys. They will rally behind Sean McVay because he has that moxie. And if we can get something like that in our coach's room to make those guys want to run through a brick wall for you, we're going to be unstoppable. We just are.
Agreed. And you know, I'm excited, and there's been a lot of speculation in the area today because Ryan Kerrigan has been at practice still shadowing. A couple of reporters brought it up, and Warren Sapp was back again today. Those that don't remember, Sapp was at OTAs earlier this offseason, and Rivera said letting go of Mills has nothing to do with Sapp being here. It was just a coincidence. But you know, Commanders fans, we can only hope to be able to bring in someone of that talent. It'd be nice.
I don't believe in coincidences, Ted. I don't believe in that. Now, if you remember, I want to say our first or second podcast, I said, I don't care that Warren Sapp is here. That happened so many weeks ago. And on average, the muscle memory they will have forgotten what Warren Sapp has taught them. Now that Warren is back in camp, now the juices in my mind are flowing a little bit more, because before I wasn't necessarily against it. I just didn't care that he was here. Okay, so he came in for 2 hours. So, and now what? But now he's back. Kerrigan's back. And I saw a couple of drills that Kerrigan was giving those guys with that stiff arm that he does, and how to use that leverage. Not to say that they probably didn't know how to do it, but the fact is, you can give a guy a different way of doing it. And it may even be easier for him to get that technique that Kerrigan is possibly trying to give him the input to do. So, man, I get hyped, Ted, and I need to really slow my roll and wait. But when I see greatness, I've got to praise greatness. And that's what I see right now. Now, it hasn't translated on the field as of yet, we know, but you got to start the building blocks. And the fact that they're doing it in practice means that they're going to slowly but surely implement it and do it in games at game speed. And I will be able to give you a better assessment on Saturday evening after the game.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing that. And actually, you know, in the segment coming up, hearing what you think and what you're going to be looking for during that. But Kerrigan did an interview with John Keim, and he's actually been making his rounds the circuit, you know. Mm-hmm. And Keim asked him, you know, are you talking to the guys in between plays and doing drills and things like that? And Kerrigan said no. He's not doing that because he remembers what it was like being a player, having a coach tell you one thing, and then other guys trying to come up and trying to tell you to do something completely different. So if guys are coming up to him, he's giving them some tips, but he's more so been there just to kind of shadow. But there were a couple times, and those of you, if you get out to practice when the guys have full pads on, one of my favorite drills to watch is the offensive and defensive line one-on-ones. A lot of people don't actually catch it because the wide receivers and the tight ends and all the skill player guys are doing 7-on-7s. But the offensive defensive line are lined up right across from each other. And you've got, you know, a hat on a hat and one guy going against a blocker in front of them. There were a couple times today they were working on stunts. You could see Kerrigan giving some tips to, I can't remember the guy's name, the other 91 that looks very weird to me, that's wearing Ryan's number, and just kind of showing him how to rip and get past that lineman and just get through that block. And there were a couple times last week where I saw Ryan actually get into a stance real quick and show Montez what he was doing. And I actually think I put that video up on my Twitter. And it is interesting to see. And it would be great if they did decide to, you know, promote Ryan, if that's something they want to do. But regardless, I think the defensive line is in good hands with Scanina. And fact of the matter is, Deron Payne has been balling out. And I don't think that's a coincidence because it's a contract season and he wants to get paid. And this line has looked really good so far. So I'm looking forward to seeing them do that against a different color jersey. But so far, everything's been great.
Yeah, man. And the thing also is with Kerrigan, Sapp, and Scamina, it's everybody can do things differently. I also was taught, hey, what I'm teaching you is not the way, it's just another way to put the tools in your toolbox so you can go to work and be better prepared. Bro, man, come on Saturday. Come on Saturday.
And actually, it was Charles Leno did a post-practice interview earlier this week, and was talking about Montez Sweat and said that Sweat has added a couple more weapons in his arsenal, if you will. And I'm paraphrasing, but Sweat's picked up a couple of new moves, and Leno, going up against him day in, day out in practice, has noticed. So is he picking up those moves because of some of the stuff he's learning from RK? Actually, Sweat said during his press conference that Chase is giving him some tips more so than anything, while Chase is kind of standing on the sidelines. So I'm curious to see if Chase is going to have some new moves, when he gets out there by, maybe Halloween, whenever the hell he's going to be out there. But
well, he was working with the cat for Denver.
Von Miller.
Yeah, Von Miller, but Von moved on to another team, if I'm not mistaken, right? I think another team picked him up.
I thought he was still in Denver. I could be wrong on that, but I thought he was still. I'll have to look that up, see if I can find it.
But he was working with Vaughn, and let's face it, man, anytime that you can, once again, add more tools to your toolbox, it's going to make you a better player, a better carpenter, a better whatever you want to call it. So Chase, just continue to rehab, bro. Do your thing. Yeah. Be slow about it, but continue to learn so that when you come back, you'll be another beast.
Now, and you're right. Miller went to Buffalo, so he's Bills Mafia now.
Yep. I thought they got rid of him or traded him rather.
Yeah, be curious to see how that goes. But speaking of Chase, I didn't make it to the Saturday night practice. There's only a couple weekends left during the off season, and my wife is admittedly a football widow during the season when it starts. And I'm sure your wife's probably the same way with all the games you're traveling to home and away. So I decided to skip Saturday night's practice. But one thing I saw was Chase stayed out there for an hour and some change, signing autographs the entire circle of the stadium in that lower bowl for all the kids. And what some fans don't know is the team was working on a special thing that they were going to do. And I mentioned it last week that I couldn't announce yet. If you were a kid 12 and under, you could get a wristband to get an autograph from the players. And if you're an adult, you had to have a kid with you to be able to do that. So I had a couple adults say, hey, I don't got a kid with me. Your best bet to come out and practice to do that in Ashburn. But seeing Chase do that, it reminds me of Gilbert Arenas, when Arenas would do that at Wizards games and at Wizards practices. And he would actually pay the staff past their hours just so everyone had a chance to say hello, take a picture, and, just get a piece of the guy, if you will. But I'm curious what you saw in the stadium that night. You're my eyes and ears. What are a couple things that you really, that really stood out to you while you were there?
First off, crowd participation and excitement. I haven't seen a crowd that excited for a practice in a long time. And if it bodes to what we've been hearing as far as the season ticket holders being the most that we've ever had, I can see it because the energy was in the air at Fedex Field last Saturday. The other thing that I saw was, let's see, I saw the Chase, as you said, firing those guys up from the sideline like he always does. It was almost like he was ready to get on the field, as fired up as he was. Last but not least, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this, I saw Carson Wentz. And right now, he's on cue to do what all of the announcers have said he's going to do. He's going to give you some dime balls. He's going to give you some duds, and he's going to give you some studs. So I saw all of that, but I'm not mad at that because this is when I want him to do it. And if he continues to play like he played last year with the numbers that he put up, I'm not going to be mad, bro. I don't care if he throws 15 balls in the dirt. Put those same numbers up that you put up last year, and the Commanders will, with the defense that we have, hopefully, we will be a winning team. So I'm not worried about it. I can't worry about it right now.
And I hear you. And it just, for me, it's a little bit different with Carson. And those that are watching this on YouTube, hit like on our YouTube channel, subscribe. I'm going to put a tweet in here from Nikki Javala of the Washington Post. Nikki had a overhead shot of Carson throwing just, basically I would equate it to a layup drill in basketball. If you're watching a basketball team warm up, you've got, everyone just running layups and just throwing them up to the basket and making those layups. Well, if you're ever out of practice, you'll see the wide receivers line up, basically single file, and the quarterbacks just throw slants to them, digs to them, outs to them. It's just pitching and catching. There's no defenders. There's no line. There's nothing to worry about. And Nikki's tweet, which was a little alarming, but I had retweeted it and said, this is exactly what I'm talking about when I've been in practice. Carson was one-hopping balls. Balls were short. Balls weren't getting to their receiver. And that's alarming to me because he's the second overall pick in the NFL draft, right? You shouldn't be short-arming a ball on a 10-yard in to a receiver that is not covered, that's not going full speed out of a break. And to me, there's no excuse for that at all. And it just goes back to what I've been seeing during practice. Now, last week's episode, we talked about how Carson threw back-to-back interceptions. Good news is, since the guys have put the pads on a couple of times, he hasn't thrown a single pick. So maybe that's the offensive line giving him some more time to throw. Maybe that's his throwing motion's been a little bit better with some pads on, which doesn't really make any sense because that would hinder his throwing motion. But he hasn't thrown a single interception since he's had pads on from last week. He did throw a ball today that was nearly tipped and caught. It was actually right in Benjamin St-Juice's hands, but St-Juice dropped it. He plays defensive back for a reason, or else he'd be a receiver. But all of the local media was going crazy about, oh my gosh, what's going on with Wentz? Because this was the first time that a majority of the fan base could see for themselves Wentz missing and him not connecting, him overthrowing receivers. And a lot of people have been, me admittedly, saying, what the hell's going on here? Is this too early to freak out? And I know you said you're not worrying about it yet, but at what point do you start to get concerned?
Okay, I will get concerned based on what I see on Saturday, even though it's a preseason game. I'll start to, right now the wheels aren't even spinning in my head about it. They just aren't. After Saturday, when we are going up against another colored jersey, and I see his true mechanics and his true mindset of things, then I'll be able to start getting worried. Second preseason game, if I continue to see the same things, then I'll start to get worried. But right now, I'm not worried. They also say this kid doesn't practice well, bro. We've read all the tea leaves. Come on, man. Don't do this to yourself right now. Everybody's got their own rate of alarm. My rate right now is from a 1 to 10 is a 0.5. It just is.
That low.
Yeah, because this doesn't mean anything. This doesn't mean anything. As soon as I start to see it repetitively in this preseason game, then the meter will start to go up. And I'll say, wow, man, I can't believe he did this, or wow, man, I can't believe he did that. But right now, they've said he's not a good guy in practice. Everybody has said that. So why am I going to think anything different? Now, when the game starts, and I'm repeating myself, when the game starts and he starts doing those exact same things, then I'll say, all right, Carson, it's time. You know what I mean? The meter may tick up another point or two, depending on how egregious it really is. But I'm not worried right now.
So there are a lot of coaches out there, some players out there that say you play how you practice. And the fact that Carson is on his third team in 3 years leads you to believe that there are some things off with his game, or else he wouldn't be on his third team in 3 years. And I'll give my opinion here in a second, but Logan Paulson, who we've cut up a couple of clips before from his Take Command podcast, was on with Grant Paulson, no relation, from 106.7 The Fan, this past Friday, talking about what he's seeing. Let me play this for you real quick.
You mentioned Wentz's struggles. They've gotten a lot of attention. I mean, you're there, you're watching. You've been around for years in this league. Does it matter that he's scuffling? Are you nervous at all with anything that you're seeing?
I think as camp goes on, like that his performance is moving up my list of concerns, and it's starting to near kind of the number one, the most important thing. And, I think that's totally reasonable because, this offense is going to go as he goes. As much as Scott Turner can call a perfect game plan, as much as the offensive line can block perfectly, if he's not playing well, this offense isn't going to play well. And that's just kind of the nature of the quarterback position in this era of football. So I think that, he's struggled a little bit with inaccuracies. He's yet to kind of make a connection seemingly with Terry McLaurin. He's made some bad missed throws. I want to say 4 or 5 days ago, had a really rough day at practice. They've kind of come back. He's come back a little bit, but again, those inconsistencies, those inaccuracies are there. And I think as a fan of football and as a fan of analytics, I was hoping that even if potentially he was going to kind of, be more turnover prone or be less accurate, they'd always be able to kind of put their head down on the pillow at night and say, we have this big playability in the hole. And quite frankly, he hasn't shown that ability just yet. So I think the thing that I was expecting to see hasn't really showed up yet, even though like the player that he was in Indianapolis is here now. The inaccuracies, the inconsistencies, all those things showed up in Indy, but there was always that big play kind of looming, and that just hasn't shown up yet. So that's something that is slightly concerning, and I think it's going to be more concerning the longer it takes to show up, because quite frankly, if you don't do it in practice, I don't have a lot of high level of confidence you're going to be able to do it in the game.
So you had mentioned earlier that, he doesn't practice well. And it's been said out there, Logan just mentioned it, that in Indy, he didn't practice well. And he was a 62% completion percentage guy. So, he is right on par with what he normally has been. But with a guy like Carson, there's a ton of reward and there hasn't been a lot of risk. He hasn't thrown a ton of interceptions over his career. He was 27-7 last year. He was 16-15 in 2020 versus the Eagles, which was an outlier touchdown to interceptions. 27-7 again in 19, 21-7 in 18, 33-7 in 17. So you can live with balls in the dirt. You can live with overthrows and him missing receivers if it's not causing interceptions and they're not in bad situations and you're still able to convert in the red zone. It's just alarming to me that he's having issues. And a couple people have said during Saturday night's press conference, McLaurin looked a little distraught's probably too strong a word, but looked a little frustrated and a little upset. And McLaurin actually during his presser said that he was going to try and work on more drills with Carson in between drills during training camp. Now, I've been out there the past 2 days. They haven't been doing that. And I don't know how they could do that, considering they're always doing something individually with the different coaches. So who knows what's happening? I know after practice, those two aren't hanging out, throwing balls. They're signing autographs and headed inside. But to me, it's still a little alarming. And the reason why I'm concerned, and we talked about it on a previous episode, was Carson has the weapons. It's mental for him. Can he put it together mentally? And I'm wondering if this is too much pressure, or pressure starting to build, because every single thing he does, fans dissect when they're out there, the media dissects when they're out there, good or bad. And he does it to himself. During OTAs, there was a point where he was talking to himself, smacking himself in the helmet, beating himself up in between plays. Rivera mentioned it during a press conference because he thought that Wentz was actually talking to him, where Wentz was actually talking to himself, trying to basically work that play back in his head before the next one. That's what I'm concerned about, because to me, the lack of mechanics is what we are seeing when he is overthrowing guys and underthrowing guys. And that lack of mechanics is a lack of, I guess, mental awareness of the situation, if you will.
Who's our quarterback coach besides Turner has the plays?
Zampese.
Zampese is our quarterback's coach. So have we seen Zampese and Carson truly working together? Either it be prior to practice or after practice. Have we seen that at all?
So prior to practice, no, he's not out there. The second he gets out there, he's doing his little warm-ups, his little Dak Prescott stretching drill. And then after practice, no, he's not hanging out afterwards other than to sign autographs. Sam Mills will usually hang out afterwards. Heineke hang out after. Mills and Heineke are the first two players on the field usually. But no, you don't see him doing any extra work outside in front of people.
Well, the only I can say as far as the whole hitting your head is concerned is, come on, man. I mean, he's got a brand new playbook that he's working with. He's got brand new everything. So in his mind, maybe I should have thrown the ball to the Z, or maybe I should have thrown the ball to the Y. It is beating him up because he probably wishes he could get it back. But I'll say this, Ted. Would you rather he balls out in practice and is a dud in the game, or is a dud in practice and balls out in the game? And I already know the answer to that question, so you don't have to answer it. I know the answer to that question. So, hey, like everybody else, calm down. Calm down. I know it doesn't look good, but just calm down. He didn't get to the point where he is with the ratios that he had by just doing nothing. It's there. It's going to come back to him. I honestly believe that. Is that my heart speaking, or is that my head speaking? It's my heart. All right. I'm a Commanders fan. Now, Carson, if you let me down, you asked me what section I sit in, and I told you 132, row 1. I'm going to be looking at you Saturday. We're going to have a talk. Trust me, when you come down to my end zone, we're going to talk.
Oh, and I've had a couple of, friendly interactions with him. I think he was trying to wonder why I didn't want a picture with him or his autograph, but he probably doesn't recognize me from, Joe Blow fan that's been out there every other couple of days. But I know it's early, but to me, we're not going to see anything in preseason. The coaches are not going to put him in a situation where he can be scrutinized. He is QB1, no matter how well Heineke does or how well Sam Mills does during preseason. He is QB1. There's 28 million reasons why. Heineke threw an interception today, and he had a couple of bad throws and he had a sack today. So for those that aren't out there, it's not like Heineke is lighting the world on fire. And Sam Mills is going against the 3s and the 4s. He's looking good, but he's not jumping up that depth chart. Carson,
3s and 4s.
Yeah, and Carson is it. So we're going to live and die with him. When I get frustrated with what I see, I think back about Mark Sanchez and Gilbert Grape and then all these other guys that we have had, and he is better than all of them. So I start to calm down a little bit. And Brad Johnson, those that don't know or don't remember, Brad Johnson, a quarterback that used to play for the Redskins at the time, a fan actually asked him what he thought about Carson, because Brad's been doing a bunch of trick stuff on Twitter, throwing a football in some weird spots and this and that. Brad basically said the game is different. Completion percentage isn't the same as it was before, doesn't matter as much, and to relax. Basically, I think you and he were talking, because he basically said, relax, calm down, it's going to be okay.
Well, there you have it. If Brad Johnson said it and the rally captain said it, then nothing else needs to be said about it, brother.
I hear you. I need to see him let go of that ball a little bit more. I need to see him make quicker decisions and not be afraid to hit that check down. And I need to see him stop overthrowing Cam Sims, who's 6'6". But I'm curious, this Saturday, we finally have our first preseason game.
Mm-hmm.
What are 3 things you're looking for when you're in the stands? What are 3 things that you want to see when you're out there watching the game and we're actually going up against another team?
I'm looking how our offensive line protects Carson. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not necessarily looking for the Jahans and the Terrys and the receiving core. That's the done deal. I need to know, what does my interior unit look like? Because regardless of what Carson does, it starts with the line. And we've always said, I don't care if you got Tom Brady here, if the offensive line can't block, he isn't going to be able to do anything. So I want to see how the offensive line protects Carson. And also I want to see, and I know you said we're not going to see much, but I also want to see if by chance that coverage breaks down or the line breaks down, what does Carson do? Does he go back to his old hypothetical left-handed pass interception pick 6, or does he eat it, or does he throw it out of bounds? That's what I want to see. That rates, to me, maturity, what you do in those situations. And even though it's not a game, a real game, the fact is it's real life, real live fire situations. That red or yellow jersey isn't on you. You're a live target. So I want to see how you act under the gun with our new linemen that we've acquired. The second thing I want to see my defensive line. I want to see my defensive ends. I want to see Montez, even if it's for a series. I don't know, but I can't imagine that they would not play these guys for at least a series or 2. I don't know, but I want to be able to see that. I also want to see the secondary to truly see if they are in fact bonding as much as I've heard that they are, because it's one thing to get lip service. Oh, these guys are second year in the system and they're bonding and they're talking to each other better. Okay, no problem. It's easy to do that when you are playing against your own team. Now you mix it up with a new schematic, a new team. Let's me see how you are truly communicating with each other. We'll see. You can only shield it for such much of a time. It's going to come out this Saturday, some shape, form, or fashion. We'll see. Even if it's just a base defense, we're going to see it. How are they playing their techniques? How are they playing their keys from the offense to the defense to the secondary? Oh, yeah, we're going to see it, bro. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Now, those are a couple of good ones. And I was actually, you mentioning the offensive line. I'm starting to get concerned about the fact that Trey Turner, our guard that we picked up this season, hasn't played. He's not practicing.
Nope.
And I want to see Norwell and Leno and how they communicate and what's going to go on, because it's been frustrating that you've got Turner on your roster, but he's not suiting up. And I don't know when he's going to suit up or what's going to happen. And you don't have a ton of depth on that line. You've got Wes Schweitzer, who is also, your backup center. And, Tyler Larson is on PUP, so he's not going to be there. So, as with every preseason game, I want to see the guys make it out healthy. I don't want to see a single pause for someone getting knocked on the ground. Let's just get through 60 minutes of football with no one getting hurt. But one of the big things I want to look for is I want to see if the Panthers press Dotson, what does he do? Because he has speed. And in practice, they're not pressing him. So they're not lining up basically right in his face and jamming him at that line. I want to see how he reacts to that. if that even happens at all, because the one thing that concerned me about him when we drafted him was his size. He's not a big guy. He's listed at, I don't even actually have his stats. He's 5'11", 182.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's out there, I mean, if he stands sideways, you might not see him. Guy's rail thin. So how is he going to match up against a physical corner that is going to just shut him down at the line? Someone that's going to give him some space, he's winning those battles because he's good, he's slick. But I'm hoping Carolina jams him and we can see what he does against that. Because the depth chart just came out and unofficial. They didn't say anything in particular, but Jahan is up on that depth chart. They just listed 3 wide receivers, and each one had Terry was a wide receiver, and then a couple guys behind Terry, Curtis Samuel, who I don't think should be on that depth chart, and then a couple guys behind him, and then Jahan. So basically, unofficially, he's kind of their tier 1 wide receiver. I want to see what he can do against tier 1 coverage, because Terry McLaurin's been lining up against Kendall Fuller for the most part of camp. Jahan has been lining up against the other guys. Let's see what he can do against someone else wearing Carolina blue. I'm also curious to see if anybody is going to compete with Alex Erickson for kick returner. So Dax Milne has been kind of lighting up practice. I don't know if it was that Twitter thing with him stealing someone's girlfriend. Who was that? Zach Wilson's girlfriend or whatever?
I believe so. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's why people are all over Zach now or Dax now, but he's actually been doing really well during practice. And if we can have our kick returner also be, maybe a 4th wide receiver on that depth chart, it gives us a chance to keep another player, whereas we might have been only to keep 3 running backs versus 4, or 3 tight ends versus 4. Now, sure.
I was going to say the first guy that you mentioned, he's the guy that came from Howard, right?
Alex Erickson?
Yeah.
When you say Howard, you mean he played college at Howard?
Yeah, HU.
Let me see. I know that we picked him up from Carolina. I don't know where he actually went to.
This isn't the same guy then, because there's a undrafted guy who went to Howard who was trying to become a return man, and for all points and purposes, they say he was lighting it up. So maybe it's not the same guy.
Yeah, I don't know what college this guy. He went to Wisconsin. So
okay, so no, it's not the same guy. All right,
not this guy, but he has been doing a good job back there. But you don't really see him during receiver drills lighting it up, during 7-on-7s lighting it up. But you see Dax Milne actually doing a good job back there. What's been interesting though is Milne's been back there receiving punts. He hasn't been doing kickoffs. So I don't know what that's about. And today during drills, I actually took a video of Dax actually fielding some kickoffs. So I'm hoping he can work his way up that depth chart on that side. And, I'm not trying to say get rid of Erickson, and I don't want to advocate for someone to lose their job. But if we can save a roster spot, to me, that would be great. And then last but not least, Antonio Gibson put the ball on the ground twice last week. Now, one of those fumbles was apparently a exchange issue between him and the quarterback, and one was on him. And I've taken a couple of videos at camp. It's actually kind of funny because the line holding their blocks, and all of a sudden the coach just drops a football on the ground, and you see this big guy run around and scramble and try and pick up this ball. I hope to God they never have to do that during a game because AG put it on the ground. But the fact that AG put the ball on the ground twice, I want to see. Now, I don't think he's going to get that many reps, but I want to see, is he going to hold on to that ball against Carolina? Or is Brian Robinson Jr. going to start making his way up that chart? Because Robinson is a natural back. And I got into a couple of Twitter arguments with some fans saying how Jarrett Patterson should be over Antonio Gibson on the depth chart, but Rivera's too stubborn. People need to slow the roll there. Patterson is 5th on the depth chart as it is today. Not even 4th. He's 5th on the depth chart.
5th.
So most likely, unless something crazy happens, he's not making this squad right now, unless he does a better job on special teams. But if AG can't hold on to that ball, he has got to feel Robinson breathing down his neck, because Robinson has been surprising the coaches, not only in the running game, but also in the catching game, the passing game.
Yep. So how about put Robinson in the backfield and put AG in the slot, and they won't know where the ball's going to go.
And
so, we've got this potential, and I agree with you. He definitely is feeling the heat, but once again, he's doing it to himself. His position at this point, well, prior to this, was sold up. It was his and I think what happens is we sometimes get full of ourselves. I got this. It's like a guy who just got his huge paycheck. That fire is gone from him a little bit, because this is my spot. I got it. Nobody's gonna take this from me. Well, now you got this rook who is doing everything that you're doing and better. You better put your thinking cap on, and you better put your doggone sticky fingers on, because you saw they didn't have a problem benching them last year in the middle of games. They didn't have a problem. So it's going to happen again. Now, you want to talk about practice relating to the field? Now, that does scare me as far as the running back is concerned. That scares me, and that speaks volumes.
If you're worried, then I'm really worried, because I feel like preseason training camp, you just brush this stuff off your shoulder and keep moving. But it's the one thing in Robinson's game that hasn't been there compared to AG is blocking, blitz pickup.
Mm-hmm.
So if he can round out that part of his game that's lacking and recognize blitzes,
mm-hmm.
then I think he's got a good shot of doing something, especially if AG puts the ball back on the ground. But I want to see him do that against Carolina. What is he going to do against the Panthers this weekend? I'm going to be in the stands. You're going to be in the stands. I actually want to sit in the 400s. I'm in section 103, but I kind of want to sit up higher so we can actually get a bird's eye view of what's happening on the field, because you're row one. I mean, if they're on the other side of the field, you're not seeing much. And I'm row 10, I think. So depending on where I am, it's a little tougher other than watching on the Jumbotron. So I might go upstairs and see how it is up there and just kind of get an overall glimpse, because being at practice, it's hard to see some things and you don't have film that you get to look at afterwards. So this Saturday is going to really be our first chance of checking out what these guys look like in live reps.
Well, that's why I like sitting in zone, because I can see pretty much what the quarterback sees, even though I am further away. But the fact is you have a vision of the field. You can say, oh, man, I see this play developing. And if I can now, honestly, let's face it, I'm not playing the game, but from a fan's perspective, you say, I see this opening up. Why didn't they do that? And I can see that a lot of times from my vantage point versus the 50 or the 400 yard, not yard, but the 400 seating or whatever have you. I can actually see it from my row one, from my vantage point. So that's why I like it.
Oh, I don't blame you. I'd rather sit in the 300s in the club level and get a better view and get some ice cream, but I can't afford those tickets.
No, me either.
But speaking of things I can't afford, the Commanders announced last week a fan cruise, a Washington Commanders fan cruise. So for those of you that have watched kind of all the press conferences, it says in the background, now Rally's got sbevents.net, and the Commanders have their sponsors up there in the background. And everyone's been wondering, what is this fan cruise? Well, late last week, the team came out and said they are going to set sail on a Royal Caribbean cruise from Miami, 7 nights from March 25th to April 1st of 2023 on the Royal Caribbean Harmony of the Seas. They're going to be stopping in Costa Maya, Roatan, Cozumel, in Royal Caribbean's private island, Coco Cay. And they're going to be joined by Washington legends, Doug Williams, Dexter Manley, Gary Clark, Joe Theismann, Jordan Reed, Santana Moss, and others yet to be announced. Rumor is Brian Mitchell is going to be on here. Guests are going to have the opportunity to partake in Commanders-themed events, activities, meet and greets. If you go to commandersfancruise.com, they got a full breakdown of this thing. There's basketball shootouts, X's and O's, trilogy of Washington Super Bowl champions, karaoke night. I can only imagine Jordan Reed singing. If you haven't heard him do an interview, it's not the voice that I expect when you see him as a player. Dance the night away. I don't want to think of Joe Theismann's go-to dance move out there. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be a shuffleboard competition, a cornhole competition, a basketball shootout. I mean, to me, it sounds like the ultimate experience for a Commanders fan. I love cruising. Mrs. Tailgate and I took one earlier this year to Bermuda. I'm not sure how you feel about cruising. Is this something that you would jump on?
Initially, I was like, you know what? I've never really been on a cruise ship, so I would think about doing it. And then all of a sudden, I got the sticker shock. And I said, well, gee, if I go on this cruise, it's cutting into my away games. So I said, I'm going to have to back out and continue to do my my method, which allows me to go to all the games. And so it's going to be a no for me. Unless someone wants to sponsor me. I mean, you know, I'm all for a sponsor, but right now, the way I have my my bank is set up, I won't be able to do it. But it does sound fun, though, man. It really does, and those ports of call sound really good.
Yeah, I've never been to any of those ports, and I've been on a couple of cruises. It's not for everybody. I enjoy it because, to me, you get a chance to unplug. My cell phone never turns on. I don't got to worry about anything. You have amazing food. Now, I normally go on Norwegian. This isn't sponsored. They're not giving me a single dollar, but I like them because they don't nickel and dime you. You get all you can eat restaurants, like not buffets, like legit restaurants, all you can drink. So you're not paying per cocktail. You don't have to pay.
Package, the drink package. Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to add it on after the fact. You know, a lot of cruise lines, you actually, like Royal Caribbean, you got to add the drink package on afterwards. You got to add specialty dining afterwards. You don't have to do that with Norwegian. You also don't have a set time to eat. You can eat your dinner at 10 o'clock at night if you want to. Some of these other ships, you actually are set to eat at like 6 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, or whatever it may be. You got a set time to go, or else you're eating at the buffet, which you probably don't want to do anyway. So who knows what's going to happen? But from a pricing perspective, this is pricey, man. An interior room is starting at $2,200 a person, not for the room, per person.
You said interior
room. So you got no windows, you got no balcony. And I always get a balcony, and that's not because I'm a baller. It's because I need fresh air.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to have that fresh air. I want to have that escape from that, you know, tiny room, if you will. But a room with an outside view starts at $2,600. A room with a balcony starts at $2,800. And a royal suite starts at $4,000. And all of this is per person, right? So this is in 2023. Now, you can make installments or you can pay this in full. Now, the installments that you make, you would think a couple of options. Let me do this, you know, on a month-by-month basis. No, you have one option, pay in full. Option two, pay in 2 monthly installments. Or option three, pay in 3 installments.
What a bargain.
I mean, that ain't cheap, man.
No, bro.
It's not at all. So let's just go with the cheapest room, $2,200 a person, right? And
44 off the bat, 4,400 off the bat without taxes.
Without taxes, without drink package, without dining and all that stuff, and without excursions, you still got to pay for all that. So right now, total amount, including fees and taxes and gratuity, is $5,000. You're going to have $5,000 just lying around. Basically, right now, we're able to do that between August, September, and October. I don't know why they didn't give us more payment options. The team is not running this. It's going through Royal Caribbean and Fan Cruise. So don't blame the team on these payment options. But, I'll usually put money aside on a 3-month plan for a cruise I'm taking, 2 years from now. And the wife and I, and the only reason we had this was because our cruise got canceled 3 times because of COVID. So our last cruise, we got a penthouse suite with a butler and a concierge. I am not a baller.
On a cruise?
On a cruise.
Wow. Okay.
24/7 butler.
Wow. I didn't know you had that option.
Oh yeah. High-end restaurants. I had 2 lobster tails on every single meal because you could just pick and choose what you wanted to from all the restaurants. Right?
My man.
You didn't have to wait in line. You got to walk right past everybody. And I am not a VIP by any means, but because our cruise got canceled 3 times, they said, please don't get a refund. We'll just give you credit each time.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, but you had to use that credit on your next cruise. So our cruise, if we would have actually paid out of pocket, was $6,000 for everything.
Per person?
We're talking $5,000. No, $6,000 total.
So, okay.
$6,000 total, 7-day cruise to Bermuda. Right.
Okay.
For a 7-day cruise, you're talking $5,000 for a interior room with no window, no butler, no concierge, no all you can drink, none of that.
You also forgetting 2 other options, Ted. How you going to get down there?
Oh yeah, you got to fly.
Or you going to drive? so you got to add that in too. So don't forget about that.
And I'm not trying to rain on people's parade. It sounds like a fun time. My cousin, she's a huge New Kids on the Block fan. They actually do these New Kids on the Block cruises, which I was shocked that that's a thing. It sounds like absolute torture to me. I went to their concert, not by choice. Don't get me started, man. I went to the concert to go see Salt and Pepper and Vogue, and New Kids was headlining. So it was what it was. The wife dragged me there because I'm dragging her to a football game. I'm over that song, man. But if you want an all-inclusive Commanders Washington experience, this to me sounds like a phenomenal time. I just wish that they would have gave us more options on paying for it, more warning that this was coming up, because those of us that went to the website the day it went live, it wasn't working properly.
No.
It didn't have the pricing. It didn't have a ton of things. So it felt kind of rushed and half-assed, like this sponsorship just kind of came up. Doug Williams came out and said, Washington football fans are the most passionate and dedicated in the sport, and their years of loyalty made our careers in burgundy and gold so special. Bringing these 2 groups back together for a week in the Caribbean will be an unforgettable experience for all, and the legends look forward to connecting with the fans and reliving some of our most memorable moments. If you're lucky enough to go on this cruise, take pictures. Let me and Riley know how it is, because it's not something that I can do, or I even think I would want to do for that price. If I had the cash, I'd probably go on a different trip, or maybe hit some road games up with Riley. But maybe Amit, maybe some of those other Richard Commanders fans are able to do it. I'm excited for you because it sounds like a blast.
Oh yeah, I second that, man. By all means, I really do. I wish I could do it, but like I said, that would mean that maybe I wouldn't be able to go to the road games, and so I'm actually very passionate about the road games. So I would have to take a pass unless I won that lottery.
And I bought $40 worth of the Mega Billion tickets. As you can see, I have not improved my studio. I did not win.
Boom.
Yeah. Or I'd be able to afford some club seats for the preseason game this weekend. And for some of you that are asking, I'm not tailgating for preseason. I'm not.
What?
No. You can invite me to a tailgate for a change. It'd be nice to have someone cook for me for a change, but I'm not hauling that grill out there for preseason. I will be out there at 8 o'clock in the morning. And once again, if you see me out there, you see Rally out there, stop us, say what's up, let us know you're listening. And if you are listening, do us a favor, hit subscribe, hit follow, hit like, leave a review. And I really appreciate you all hanging out with us for another episode of the Mess Hall.
And one thing I will say, Ted, getting back to tailgating real quick, last Saturday's practice, bro, I don't know how many grills I saw and how many people I saw actually tailgating. It was phenomenal, man. It was. I couldn't believe it.
I'm just hoping someone invites me to one of those this Saturday.
All right, guys, that's your mission. If you're having a tailgate, invite us. We will come. Just have it. We will come.
I'll bring the beer.
Well, see, look at that. Half the battle's won already. Let's make it happen, guys. Come on, invite us.
Amen. But I appreciate you all hanging out. This has been a good time. Looking forward to doing a couple more of these. And during the season, we'll be doing these with more frequency. So it won't just be once a week. We'll get a couple times, and who knows, maybe we'll hop on a couple of YouTubes or Facebook Lives or Twitter Lives and get some live reaction post-game. So I appreciate y'all joining me and Rally in the Mess Hall.
Once again, guys, if you want to go on a game, contact SB Events. We'll get you there. And for everybody, always remember, rep it hard, but don't rep it at all. Rally Captain, Tailgate Ted, and we're going to be out.